Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for joining me, of course. Today we're going to change the gear fluid of the differential on this 2008 Ford Mustang. This one has a 7.5-inch diff, so it's a little bit different than your typical Ford Mustang GTs with an 8.8-inch diff. Okay, so just keep that in mind. The main difference is the amount of fluid you're going to put in that one, and adding some friction modifier. For this car here, you're going to put a little bit over 1.25 quart of, and I like to use 75 weight by 90, but it's got to be full synthetic. And we're also going to replace the diff cover. I'll show you as soon as we get over to the car why I'm replacing the diff cover. So we're going to put this nice shiny fancy one. It's not my cup of tea, to be honest with you, but the price I got it for, can't beat it. So typically they send you these gaskets like this. They're paper gaskets. Never use this on your diff, okay? Always throw them away. They're junk. Your stuff will leak. So we're gonna replace this, of course, with the new hardware. And I always seal up my diffs with this stuff here from Permatex, the right stuff. It takes a little bit longer to set up, but I've never had a leak with it. So we're gonna go with this. If it's not broken, don't fix it, right? So of course, I'm gonna take you over to the car in a minute and show you how to have everything set up. Of course, at the end of the video, if this helps you out, please give me a thumbs up. It'll help out the channel greatly, so I really appreciate that. So let's get over to the car. I'll show you how I have it set up, and we'll get this guy installed here, and put some new lube in it. Alright, so basically here I have this car in my garage, just because it's air conditioned and it's going to be nice and comfortable for us to do this work. So basically you want a pretty much level surface. The front tires, you want to block off or chalk off the front and rear of it. You don't want this car moving at all. So do that to both front tires here. And on the back side, I installed jack stands right here on both of the mounting locations where you actually jack the car up. So the whole idea is to, of course, get the back end up, and also to let the diff hang down so we can have full access of the bolts to remove the back cover. So we'll get it set up underneath. Make sure that we can crack open the fuel port on the diff first before we start removing anything else. Alright, so we're underneath the car here. Here's the rear diff here. This is the main reason why I'm going to replace the cover. Anytime your diff cover gets rusted like this, you know, you can see things coming off. You want to replace the cover. Don't use the one that's rusted. The other thing to locate is right back here in front is your fuel port. All it's required is a wrench and a 3/8 extension like this, and you should be able to crack it loose. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back there, make sure I can get it loose before I remove anything here. That way, you know, of course, I can feel it. So I'll do that real quick, and then we'll start removing this cover and draining out this fluid. Alright, so here's the fuel part here in the back. I had it soaking on 9 in some penetrating fluid since it was a little bit rusted. It's pretty typical for these. And all you do is, of course, try to crack it loose. Make sure it moves. There we go. It does move, so that's good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and leave it in there for now. And when I'm ready to fill it back up, then we'll remove it and torque it down the spec. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and remove the cover. I'm going to remove all these bolts from this point on to here first, and then we'll start loosening the top ones. All these bolts are 1/2 inch for this car anyway. Alright, once we get to this point here, we're going to have to get a screwdriver or anything you have to help pry up and around just to get this cover loose here. Make sure you have a pen below, as when this thing breaks free, it's gonna spill out all over the place, of course. It's got some gasket material kind of holding on here, so just be patient with it. We'll work it all the way around here, see if I can crack in this corner first. I think I felt it move there for a second. There we go. There we go. So let this drain out. What I'll do is I'll start removing some of the last few bolts here. Of course, I'm just going to let it sit here and let it finish draining out. Of course, we're going to have to go back here and clean off all this gasket material here to make sure that when we put our new gasket on, it's going to be a nice secure seal here. Also, when it's totally done, I'm just going to go around it with a rag, and I'm going to wipe everything down, of course. Make sure that any rust and dirt didn't get in here while we're doing this as well. A lot of times the fluid gets stuck here in the back as well, so typically what I like to do, and I should be wearing gloves and I'm not, but oh well, is I'll get a rag back here all at the back and I'll push it forward like this, just to remove anything that's possibly left in here. Just like so. So I'll let this drip out. I'll clean it up. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and scrape off all this gasket material and also set up the new pan and put a new bead of sealant on there as well, so we can get ready to reinstall the new one. Alright, so now it's time to put the new sealant on the new cover here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to prep the cover real quick. I'm just going to use some brake cleaner and a cloth. There we go. I'm just going to do is rub off the outside edge. Just make sure that there's no some oil on it from the manufacturer, shipping or whatever. It's just a precaution to make sure everything seals up correctly. Do that. Alright, looks good. So we're going to go ahead and lay a bead of the right stuff on here. You don't have to worry about it drying pretty quick. This thing takes 90 minutes to set up. So what we're going to do is we're going to go along here on the middle, and then we're going to dip on this side of the bolt hole. The same thing around. So Just like so, that should be enough. I know it's not perfectly straight, but it'll work, trust me. No need to spread this around. Actually, when we install this piece onto the car, it'll spread the way it should on its own. So just make sure you have no gaps. It's like right here where I joined a little bit. Just make sure there's no gaps on that. You can go ahead and dab it if you need to. Just make sure that everything looks somewhat even. So it's a pretty good bead. So now we're going to take it back to the car. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to clean up the diff. I already hit and cleaned it up, cleaned off all the gasket material. We're going to hit the outside of it with some brake cleaner and, of course, the cloth again. Just make sure everything is nice and clean before we get this thing on. Alright, so we got this surface all nice and cleaned up. Just like the cover. Just going to give it some brake clean on the cloth. All I'm going to do is come around and just wipe the lip here. Make sure we got all oil and fluids off of here. It didn't look dirty before. It's still dirty. So just make sure to get most of it off the best you possibly can. I like to do it on the rag. I don't like to spray brake fluid into my diff. I'm sure others do. I think I've actually had to use WD-40 before just to remove some debris out of a diff before, but no big deal. But brake clean I don't, so. And we're good there. Everything's nice and smooth. Alright, so now it's time for the cover. Alright, so you want to carefully position the cover on there. Make sure it doesn't slip from your hand. You want to kind of get it as even as possible without touching the gasket material, the new gasket material on anything. So you want to kind of take your time with it. Be gentle. Let's see here if I can line up some holes here. Here at the bottom. Slowly just lay it on. And what you want to do, once you have it somewhat lined up here, in our case, we're looking pretty good. You want to start some of the bolts. Alright, so what you want to do is you pretty much want to kind of lightly kind of snug these bolts into the cover. I like to use like a cross pattern just to make sure everything kind of sets evenly. We're not going to torque this down. We're going to have to give it 90 minutes for this thing to set up. And after that 90 minutes, I'll come in here with the torque. I'll come in here with the torque wrench and I'll torque them to spec. And then that'll be done, and then we're going to fill it back up. So for right now, is just snugging it on, not tight, okay? So they're basically not even hand tight at this point, but it's snug on to the diff here. So I'm gonna let it go. Like I said, I'm gonna let this set up for 90 minutes. We'll come back and we'll torque from the spec. Alright, so now it's been a little bit over 90 minutes actually. So we're gonna go ahead and torque all these bolts down to 33 foot-pounds. Alright, so now it's time to fill back the diff. So we're going to go ahead and remove the plug. Remember, I'm just using a 3/8 extension. I apologize for the lighting. I try to do the best I can to kind of show you where this plug is at. The angles are kind of funny down here, laying on your back doing this, so apologize for that. But it's right up here above this lip here, just in case you can't see it. I'm just going to go ahead and remove the plug. That aside, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a hand pump and pump the fluid back in here, and we'll keep on pumping until the fluid starts to come out on its own. Once that happens, that means we're full, and we're going to go ahead and plug it up. Alright, so once you get to the point where it's slowly dripping off like this, that means it's full. It's time to go ahead and put the plug. Remember, when you put in the plug, you're going to have to make sure to clean your plug off first. It does have a magnet at the end of it, so there will be some debris on here. So make sure to clean that off before putting it back in. Alright, so we're going to torque down the plug to 22 foot-pounds. That's about it. So that pretty much wraps it up. At this point, make sure to take it for a dry, check for leaks. You know, check it for a good week afterwards, just to make sure that everything has sealed up. You know, make sure to clean this off. Like for me, I'm going to go ahead and clean this off to make sure it doesn't look like I have a leak that way, so I know there is one. Anyway, hopefully this video helps you out. Thanks for joining me, and stay tuned to the next one. Thank you.